Hey everybody, welcome back to Majestic Collectibles. So I literally just came back in the office, came back from the antique mall, and I just bought a Spider-Man collection. So I took it out of the tub, and here it is. We're going to go through it. It's going to take a little bit. There's a few books here, but I think you'll find it interesting. Thanks to Tim. He brought it in. And it's a childhood collection, which is always really cool when somebody brings a childhood collection in and trusts you to look at it and things like that. And we talked baseball, we talked comics. We're pretty close to the same age, so we could relate to a lot of different things. And it was a lot of fun. I had a great conversation with them. And anyway, the short version is I've got it. It's kind of semi in order. And this is raw, so I always like to show you guys how I get collections in as much as I can, because what happens is, you see them in these nice shiny bags and backing boards, maybe a Mylar. That's very rare that these collections show up like that. And these all need to be replaced. I don't know if there's a backing board in the bunch. And some of these actually aren't too bad. It's a little cloudy, but a lot of them aren't in bad shape. And these are the cheap bags. These are not the good ones. And the condition on these is just, it's all over the board, which is to be expected, because he and I agreed that they were meant to read, right, when we bought these. And some were read and put away, and some were read and read and read and read and read again. It's usually pretty easy to see the favorite comic books in a collection, right? Just ones that somebody liked. And we talked a little bit about some of his favorite stories in there, and he pulled out some comics and told me why he really liked some of the stories and how they resonated to him when he was younger. And that's always fun, because so many times it's all about the money, all about the grading, all about the cover, and I'm into that too, obviously, as a dealer and a collector, but I like to think I'm a collector first. And a lot of these are going to be, I want to say VG. Now, really good book. I don't know if it picks it up. This one's probably, honestly, not even a 3. Might be a good, very good. I don't think so. So I don't know if it's picking up, but a lot of wear. And this was an issue that he liked. And he read it. He read it more than the others. And it's pretty much complete. I didn't look through every book, so, hopefully there's no bad surprises. But he took care of his stuff, and you can usually tell, when somebody takes care of their things. First of all, they're organized, which these were pretty much put in order. And, they didn't come in a plastic garbage bag, because I've had collections, and they just throw it in a black garbage bag and bring it, right? So, and you can see that one's getting pretty nasty. Oh, something else. So he kept this in a tub, not super long. If you're keeping paper, comics, or anything in a tub, especially if it's got these old grimy sleeves, it sounds weird maybe, but leave the lid open a crack, because they give off fumes, and as the plastic degrades, it just kind of seals it, right? You kind of constantly percolating in the juices, so to speak, on these comics. So it's not always the best for them to be sealed up in a plastic tub. And if you seal it up with any moisture at all, that's where you get some really nice looking books that have rusty staples, because that's what happened, is they were sealed away, and that moisture and things as things age couldn't get away. I would say a lot of these books are in fine. I don't really see anything that I would like necessarily throw in to CGC. I don't think you get, I think you get some 4s to 6s on a lot of it. I don't think you necessarily get anything super high grade, but this mid grade stuff is really popular. It's affordable, and I really like dealing with it, just because I'm usually dealing with somebody that wants to read it and enjoy it. It isn't buying a 9.0 for, their retirement fund or college fund for their kids or whatever it is. So this is really a nice collection. It is better than average. I see a lot of Spidey books. They're not, well, the 129 is hard to get, a couple others, but I got to tell you, the usually not this nice. The paper quality is what got me. He told me he was from New York originally as a kid, and I've talked before how there's a lot of East Coast paper that is not good, but he wasn't near the city. He was in a very rural area, and I think that helped a lot. Now I don't know if you can see it on there. So there's a little bit of rust on that top staple, a little bit more on the bottom, and that's from being sealed inside a plastic tub, is honestly just what that is from temperature changes, condensation. Oh, here, now I pulled a few of these off. They don't look too bad individually. They got a really great, that sinus infection green color's coming through. Wait till we get some more. So that's what that's from. That's why if you ever see like a really nice book and you're thinking, oh, what's going on with this staples? That one's pretty clean there, staple. That's what happened. They get sealed in and they just can't, the technical term is off-gassing as things decompose and change and age and so on and so forth. And there's doubles on that 179. And so we got to talking, he's like, they're all newsstand issues. Well, yeah, because all these early ones, that's all they had. So most of this collection is before they went to direct, so you see a lot of the UPC symbols. You still might get a different UPC symbol on a comic from this era if it was in a 3-pack or some type of bulk pack or specialty set. But almost all of these in some way, shape, or form, the vast majority are going to be newsstand. So this is interesting here. It's not a killer book. This one's got some issues. Again, it was one of the stories that he liked to read and enjoyed it. And then so later on, he bought a different one, and that one's, I'll put them side by side here, and you can maybe see. I don't know if that's coming through, but this again is probably maybe a 3. I don't know what that chunk missing. That would be all it would be. And the other one's a little better. I think it's probably right in that VG to maybe a 5 range. So, it's not mint, but he upgraded it. I don't know what it is. We've talked about this before where there's just, every time I get a collection, there's certain books that always show up. And this Rocket Racer, this Spidey 182, look at this. I got 3. And I don't know what it is with this particular issue. There's a Spectacular Spider-Man, which there's a few of those in here. I don't know if the Rocket Racer issue is in there. That's always in there too. So I kind of got tripled down on the Rocket Racer, but it doesn't surprise me. That's one issue that I just keeps popping up no matter what. Kind of weird. I don't know if it's just a sale thing or people like the cover thing or they just made more and didn't send them back to be remaindered thing. I don't know. I don't know the answer on it, but it is a very common book in most collections. I always like this cover. I always thought that was a really, really cool Spidey cover, saving the little girl. I don't know why. Just kind of Superman-esque, I guess, is how I would put that. That was a very Superman-styled cover. Sandman, he is actually one of my favorite villains. My favorite Spidey villain has always been Kraven. I don't know why. I just like the stories, I guess. But Sandman, as far as I guess the big 6 villains or whatever, and then Doc Ock, I thought was always a good villain for him too. Although it was still weird when he married Aunt May. That was a little bizarre. And there's a great Doc Ock cover. I do like that. I've always liked that one. And most of these are probably going to be right around a 6, which is fine. And I know a lot of people look at that and go, "Oh, you should grade that one." I'm telling you, no, you will be disappointed in it, unfortunately. Another good Doc Ock cover, and here we got. Let me get these out. These older bags, they're not polypropylene; they're polyethylene, so they're actually kind of greasy. If you've ever had some old plastic, some of the early Ziploc self-sealing bags, you will get that fairly common. So it's like an oily, greasy plastic, and that always gets into the paper. So that's one of the reasons, probably the biggest reason I'm surprised that these are you know, so white on the pages, and they're off-white, but they're not dark tan. And that one's got a stain, so again, you know, that's probably a VG bookish, 4 somewhere in there. So good mid-grade stuff most people, you know, you don't have to fork over $100 an issue, kind of thing. So they're still pretty affordable, and they still present well for the most part. That I've always liked that cover too. And this is another black cover. There you can see the wrinkling and rubbing and stuff on it. So again, it's probably only a VG book type deal. I only keep repeating that because sometimes in the video replies I get, you know, I get a lot of, oh, you got to grade this or grade that, or that's a nice book. You know, it's not. Here's, so no spoilers. It's the Jackal there, so he comes into play in the 90s, actually, down the road. So this was kind of almost close to a throwaway common book, and then it just rocketed up when they brought him back. Unfortunately, this is definitely not a VG. And you know, it's good because, you know, it's a filler book, reader filler, and you don't have to spend a fortune on it. And I think it's all there. It's one I looked at. Yeah, so centerfold's all intact on it. Oh, see, now there you go right there. So it's an incomplete book. Thankfully it looks like it's just an ad page on it, so not a, you know, the story's still there, but that is definitely 100% reader copy at that point. Thankfully the story is complete. And that's what I say about surprises. You just don't know. You know, when you're a kid, you don't remember doing that stuff. I mean, that's just the way it goes. It's part of growing up, right? These are very low grade. This is another one, and same with Spectacular. Man, the Tarantula, this cover, I don't know what it is. It's very, very common. These are really low grade. This has extra staples, so it's got 3 extra staples added. I assume the cover was detached. Same there. That's got 4 extra staples, so they were very thorough on that. You know, it's okay as long as they're complete, and I'll check those later. I just sell them like in bulk, like put a stack of reader books together. And if you follow my eBay store, you may have seen that. And Lois loved that cover. That came out when I was a kid. It's one of the early 30-cent covers. Punisher, not the first appearance. 129 is the first appearance cover, but I always liked that cover on that one. There's a great Kingpin cover, 163. These are in quite a bit better shape. And again, I've got to go through them all. You think it's no big deal to go through this stuff. This is where trading card, Chad, you might back me up on this one, but trading cards are a lot easier to deal with because you have to do page counts, and you get 100 and some comics in, and you know, the newer ones have 32 pages, and then you might go to 52. You might have a giant size with 60 or 100 pages, and blah 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 blah. So I tell you, just sit down, and what I do is I will, as I bag and board these, I will check, and then I'll make notes. So like missing a page, cut out page, coupon cut, things like that. I kind of just try and roll it all together. But since I got to take these all out of the sleeve, I thought, well, shoot, I better, you know, might as well film it, I guess. Because I'm going to have probably, I always like that Nightcrawler cover. Probably going to have, oh my goodness. I'm trying to think. So it's probably going to run pretty close, 50, 60 bucks, bags and boards. I'm not going to Mylar, I don't know if I'll Mylar any of them, but and probably a good 3-4 hours just counting pages and checking for things. So I don't know if you remember this. So, you know, that was their answer to the Batmobile, and they had a toy, so you could buy it. I believe Mattel made it. It was in the Christmas catalogs from the era. I've had a few used ones. Never had it as a kid because I got to tell you, the Spider-Mobile, what does Spider-Man need with a Spider-Mobile? Maybe outside the city. It's like, what does Superman have a car? I mean, why, you know, okay, think about it. I really like this era. So this issue in this 20-cent era. I talked with the owner of this collection a lot. This is where I started buying comics, or more accurately, my dad started buying comics for me and would bring them home. And so I have a real fondness for these covers. They're actually, a lot of them are still basically Silver Age size. They hadn't quite shrunk down after, I don't know, it probably went from 15 to 20 cents. I don't know how long it was 20 cents, not real long, but they kind of shrunk them down, not right away, but a few months in, maybe 2-3 months, they kind of shrunk down to the, I guess, the modern size, if you want to call it. But I always like these. This 20-cent era, it's just, you know, brings back so many cool memories as a kid. And this is, if I still had my comics, which I don't have them from when I was a kid, this would have been a nice one, because I tell you what, I read the stuffing out of my comics. I mean, there were pages loose, covers missing. I mean, it was just a, you know, one step from the recycling bin even 50 years ago. And this is number 117. I do kind of keep these now when they're clean like this. I'll put them with those really rough ones that are missing pages or really low grade. You know, people will read them, and obviously you're not getting much money for them. So I would say this is the big boy issue, and it looks fantastic. It presents fantastically well. And here, we'll bring it up and you can see right there, and I tell you exactly what that is right that. I'm not rubbing it now, but that's what happened. It's like somebody had a sweaty thumb, and you know, you read them right. So, you know, I'm not being mean to anybody. Happens a lot. I see a lot of finger smudges, and you know, it's a book that without that, I probably would have graded it. And I don't think I will now, because that smudge, that's a defect, and that does limit, it does set like a pretty hard cap on the grade when you send it in. You know, a lot of people play the roulette wheel and send it in anyway, but you know, your best case scenario is if this book is graded accurately, you'll more or less just break even on the grading cost, is pretty much all that's going to happen with that smudge. Another great cover. I know there's some Man-Wolf fans out there. Not hard to find. I do come across them. They're always popular, I think. And if you read the book, you know, and find out, you know, who the Man-Wolf is, it's really interesting storyline on there. This one. So here's another cover that I get a lot. The kangaroo. Gotta tell you, not one of my, I don't know, that not one of my favorite covers or stories. I got that fairly early on in as a kid, and I tell you what, that was one I just didn't get into. Rough book. It's another low grade copy. That's okay, but it's a good cover. This is another good cover. Another book I see a lot is this 128, which of course, you know, the next issue is the bad boy with the Punisher is 129. It is a really good cover, though. I do like it. Again, we've got, you know, it's mid-grade, 5 to 6. But nice, clean, presentable cover. Most people would be just fine with that in their collection. Here's another one with the Spider-Mobile and a hammerhead. It's another book I actually see pretty frequently. Not super rare. But nice, boy, just nice mid-grade books. It's really nice to get a solid collection in that's not just falling apart. And this definitely fits that bill. This is the weird one I mentioned earlier. The whole Doc Ock Aunt May, just weird, man. I don't know. I was a little kid at the time, so that's probably my perspective. But I got to tell you, that one I did not get. That one I did not get at all. Molten Man covers are fairly popular, to be honest. Even, you know, the original first appearance is pretty cool. Again, just a low grade, just a reader copy, but that's all right. That's okay. You take them like you get them. 134, another Tarantula cover, and I don't know. It's not the best sellers, but it is one of the better covers. Here's another cover I always liked. So 129 was the first Punisher. He was a hit, so they brought him back a few issues later, 6 issues later, right? And it's the return. It's a good book. It's not as good as the 129, but it is what I would say a classic cover. I think that cover and the 129 are both classic covers. You know, and that one, I got to tell you, it's not a rare book like the 129, but I don't think it gets as much respect as it probably should on that 135. Molten Man, yeah, it was okay. Green Goblin covers. Green Goblin, who's that? Green Goblin covers, always popular, always sell usually. At least until you get over 300. I'd take that back. There's a lot of them between 200 and 300 that are not quite as popular. This is a great cover, great story. Again, that would definitely be in the lower grade category, 2-ish, and I don't know if it's complete. So again, that's another one I got to check all of these, even if they look nice. You know, if they're missing something, it's a difference maker. You're pretty much catering to the guys that read them versus collectors or investors, which is okay. So this is one of his favorite comics. He liked the comic story. It's about a disabled guy, and this is the only way he can really interact with people, and he's frustrated with the world. I do agree with him that I think the story holds up pretty much today. If you've never read that one, I think it's a standalone. I don't think it's a continuation. I think it's a standalone in that issue. I can't remember for sure. It's been a while. Great cover on this. You know, you got Mysterio, you got Doc Ock, you got Morbius, Jackal. Well, I think it's the Jackal down there. Pretty cool cover on that. This is another pretty neat cover, and this is another one that's, I don't know, it's really clean for a white cover, but definitely was read a lot. So again, probably, you know, good to very good. Is about what you got there, grade wise. Here's another cover that it is not a big seller, and it's in a lot of collections. This is nicer. This is one of the nicer books in the group. So it's very clean, pretty sharp looking. If there's one that's better than fine, that's probably going to be one of them. Here's another really good cover, not rare, see a lot of them, but they're usually lower grade. So this is probably a good solid 5.5 grade wise. Again, assuming it's complete. I haven't checked all that yet, but it's always a good selling cover. That one's always been popular. It's one of my favorites too when I was getting them as a kid, so I always liked that one. Here's a Scorpion cover. I don't know why. I was never a big Scorpion fan for a villain. And then I played the video games, the Sony video games for the PlayStation that have come out. They did they did a fantastic job on everything. If you're a Spider-Man person at all, you need to play those games in some way, shape, or form. But absolutely great what they did with the Scorpion villain, and all of them in that one, but that one in particular. Again, really rough copy, quote unquote, you know, Return of Gwen. Again, no spoilers, you have to read it, kind of thing on there. And it looks like my Office Ghost is eating my battery up a little bit, so there's probably going to be a splice in here, but we'll keep her going for a while. It says I got a little time left, but it's dropping fast. Kind of an interesting cover. I don't know. J. Jonah is a great foil, but he wore off, you know, he just wore me out, I guess, with his antagonisms. That's actually not a cover, this Superstar cover. I don't see that in a lot of collections. I don't think there's anything going on in there that I'm aware of anyway. Maybe you guys can tell me, but it's just not one I see, so that's kind of interesting. I love these, had them as a kid. This one got something spilled, so a lot of rust migration. Must have had a price sticker that got peeled off, not unusual. I listened to this thing, my record was shot. My book was falling apart. I think it's just a fuzzy. Well, yeah, it is. All right, just something. Oh, it got wet, so the record got wet and stuck to the inside. So, good usable filler piece. I got to tell you, I usually don't do this, but I'm going to slap that on the record player and relive my childhood a little bit. I saw that like, oh, I gotta do that. I have a really rough book. I don't think I've got the record anywhere though. With that Spider-Man record set, so that's going to be fun. Giant size, I've said for a long time, I think a lot of these are undervalued. They're not necessarily rare. Finding them in high grade because of the binding process can be a challenge, although I've seen some 9.4 and higher's that are, you know, ungraded, that are really sharp, so they had stacks of them. They weren't good sellers necessarily back in the day, but they had self-contained stories usually, and I like that. And, you know, it was out of continuity, which I think is why they're not as popular. But I really liked it. It was kind of like a fresh break, fresh story. You didn't have a whole lot of baggage. You just kind of got right to the point of the story in them. So the pacing and plot were a little better. Early Nova appearance, you know, he had his own run there for a while, and he showed up in a few other books too. I'll put that one up there. And I don't know, I was never a huge Nova fan. He kind of, you know, with the Guardians, the Galaxy and the Nova Corps kind of jumped up. Now nobody seems to care again. Good cover, Doc Ock, Manwolf, Green Goblin. You know, it's you got to read that one. It's maybe not, you know, they're kind of messing with you on the cover as far as what's going on in the story. But if you read the clues on it, it's, you know, you'll get it. Another Rocket Racer, again, another common book. I see, I don't know why, the Rocket Racer covers, I'm thinking, just did not sell very well or something, because there's a lot of them. They're just kind of there, ubiquitous. Again, another Molten Man, kind of another ubiquitous cover. Not a bad cover, just one that doesn't really get your motor running. Like say one with the Punisher in it. You know, it was obviously a more well-known character on that. And there's another Punisher one, not the best Punisher cover because you can't see the skull or anything, but he showed up a lot. He was a big hit, and then in the 80s he blew up, and honestly I don't have really people asking for him anymore. So I don't know if they'll do something with the character on TV and movies. Maybe that'll spark interest. Another good Green Goblin cover. Back when covers told stories, right? Even a simpler cover like that is telling a story there, right? Not just a fluff pinup thing. So I don't know. Even my kids think it's the cover and the design and things were better than they are now for the most part. And they were back to the 20 center. So these got a little mixed up when I put them back in the tub. So that's on me. I love this cover. I don't know why. I was never a super huge... I like Doctor Strange, but I was never a super huge fan. But I don't think he shows up on too many Spider-Man books. And actually it's kind of an interesting, non-traditional maybe Spider-Man story. You know, had that kind of magic mysticism. Here's another early one that I got when I was really young. Bondage cover. Not the greatest cover ever by any stretch, but I have fond memories of that, bringing that one home. That's one I read till it pretty much disintegrated. Squash Goes the Spider. Nice condition. I do see these books, but that's one that, again, seems to not pop up in above good in a lot of times. I don't think, again, nothing going on in the book, just one I don't see in nicer condition. Kazar, see that actually pretty common cover. Now we're getting back into the nitty gritty. Not too far back. So here's the Prison Riot issue. Some say it's a classic cover. I don't know. I would not put up there with similar stuff by Neil Adams. And somebody, I don't know if you can see it. Let me get, there. So you can see here, somebody traced in pencil really lightly, did an outline. And unfortunately that does beat up the grade. You know, you're probably looking at VG, maybe a VG plus, is all. That's just the way it goes, kid stuff. That was an interesting era. They had a few issues kind of in that era that did not have the comics code on them. That one did, So here, I'll show you. So there's the Comics Code seal right there. But here's 98, and no Comics Code. So no Comics Code seal. Good cover too, actually, on that one. So those are a little more collectible, and go look it up. Go see the story behind where they didn't have the Comics Code. It's kind of interesting, to be flat out honest with you. Another Kazar book. Oh wait, that's the one I grabbed. I was going the wrong way. No wonder, I thought it was a duplicate. Somebody who said there, I caught him, but I bailed it out at the last second. 97, and you'll notice there's no Comics Code. See a Comics Code on there? Nope. Another great cover. Another absolutely great cover. That one's pretty low grade. These I get a little more nervous on. Just because of their age, they do tend to be, having loose covers, pages, centerfolds. That one does have a Comics Code stamp on it. I did like that cover too, with the one of the London bridges. And I didn't really see these books until later. This was BC, before Cordell, so I did not read these until after I read those 20 and 25 and 30 centers, and I picked them up in mainly in reprints. I never had those comics really as a kid, until I was much older. See this book a lot. Not a bad cover, and it's older. It's not a super hard one to find, but in that solid reader shape, somebody's going to want that, I'm sure. And that's kind of where most of these older ones are, definitely in that, just kind of that VG range. And that's a good range to be in. Here's one that's not in the VG range. It's probably a fair, I don't know, you might get a 2 out of it, because this is, I don't know what they did. If somebody put tape on there and pulled it, I'm not sure, but that's all been pulled off. The top paper's been pulled off the cover, and you can see the spines rough creases. But anyway, it's still a pretty fun book, but it is one of my favorite covers with Electro on there. Prowler, never been big until Into the Spider-Verse. So if you're into Into the Spider-Verse movies, the animated stuff, there you go. That really clicked up interest in it. Always like this cover. This is one of the nicer condition books, especially for the older books. Hopefully it'll be complete. Always, I don't know why. I just really like that cover. I really like the Chameleon. I think because I was a huge Batman fan, that Chameleon villain was kind of, I don't know, in the Batman mold a little bit. And there you go, another Prowler. Good cover. Obviously they changed the uniform colors a little bit for the animated, and I gotta tell you, I can't really blame them there. That is not the greatest costume design. Another one, I wouldn't call it a classic cover, but I always think it's pretty popular. Not rare by any stretch, but those usually have an interest in them from collectors, just to have a clean copy of it. Man Mountain Marco, it's John Romita, of course, but I gotta tell you, that one's not on anybody's top 10 list. This one, that's a really common issue. I've had a lot of these over the last 40 plus years, but it's one a lot of people really think are cool. It sells really well in high grade because of the black cover. So reader copies like this don't really fly out, but it is considered one of the better covers in that year. And here's another one, which is the issue right before it, 71 with Quicksilver. And you can see that one's got just well, I guess it's folded. Boy, I don't know. I might as well find out now, see if I can. Well, try it. Oh, I got it. Because a lot of times those will just peel right off where that crease is, because it's been there for probably, 50 plus years. Corner held up, more or less. It's still damaged, but that's actually a pretty popular cover too. Crossover covers usually do a bit better, have a bit more interest. Here's another one of my another one of my all-time favorite covers right there. Spider-Man 66 with Mysterio, the giant Mysterio. They really did that, I thought, in the was it the Spider-Man 2 video game? He was in there. They did a really good job with that character, I thought. Vulture, again, not the most popular of the villains, but that's a pretty good cover. So here we go. And this is, for the black covered ones, this is not mint by any stretch, but that's probably the best condition out of the older ones with the black covers. It does have a crease down there. Really good Kingpin cover with swinging Spidey around. So that's a really, really solid mid-grade book there. Somebody's going to be really, really happy with that. Here's another... Really, I've had a lot of these, and when I mean a lot, I mean dozen, well, probably like 3 dozen or more of this particular issue. Always sells, though. It's got Mary Jane on the front. I believe it's her first Mary Jane cover. I don't think it's first appearance. I think it's her first cover, something like that, with the disco and all that. Here's another cool one. Dark cover, pretty good shape. Not quite as good as the Kingpin one, though. And I don't know, I'm not a J. Jonah guy, but a lot of people do like that cover where he's coming into the suit there and tearing into the wall. Now this is a book that I do like. I thought they really did a good job on that cover. I've always liked that Doc Ock cover. I've liked the character too, but that's a really, really good cover. So here we've got pretty good book. It's not the first appearance, that's in 50. And here's 51, very clean, good edges. This one had a little bit, not a lot. It's got a little bit of, you can see up there, maybe in the light it's tanning a little bit on the edges, which still, this is way better than normal. Coupons there, or the centerfold's intact. Kind of thing. Oh, good. And the letter page is in this one, kind of deal on that. But it's a really, really solid book. Probably going to be close to a 6 on that one. Another fun cover from the era here. It is a Vulture cover. One of the better ones. I don't think it's the best one. Pretty decent shape on that. So that's a pretty nice book. Again, probably in that 5 to 6 range. Now, here's the cover that I think is really, really good. This is not in great shape. It's fairly clean, though, so it does present well. And that's Craven, of course. You know, I'm biased. That's my favorite. I don't know if that's... I think it's detached. Oh, it's barely hanging on. But there's not a lot left. There's not. I don't want to sneeze or anything right now because that would come detached. But I really think it's one of the best covers in the run from that era. Here's another pretty good one, and this is another character they really jazzed up and did a good job in those video games from Sony. I know he sound like an ad. I am not getting paid for this. They're just ones. Actually, my son Cam, if you've seen him on the videos, he got them first because he's a huge fan of Spider-Man. Then he says, "Oh, you got to play these, Dad." Well, dang it all, he was right. But that's a pretty good Rhino cover. Here's another cover that, you know, it's a rough book, but you know, that's got to be a classic cover on that 40. So many of these Romita Senior covers, you know, even if they're not your favorite guy or whatever, they're just are really good covers on these. Number 36, the Meteor. Yeah, I don't think he's going to make a comeback, but you never know. Who knows? So here's number. There we go. There's number 35. Again, it's got some creasing and rubbing and so on and so forth, but pretty good action cover on that one. So what I'm going to do, my battery is about dead, so I'm going to just stop it here, swap out the batteries, then we'll finish up the rest of the collection here. Okay, there we go. Got it swapped out. Got 100 minutes now, so I'm going to hope like heck I can get it done in 100 minutes, which that never actually seems to track, right? You never get what it says in the beginning. Let me pull this pile in. That's a little bit easier. Got a couple of paperbacks. Always liked these. This is when I was saying I read like reprints of those older ones. A lot of it was stuff like this. This is where I saw it. They were cheap. They were affordable as a kid. I don't know if there's a price on them. Seems to me they were like, oh, there it is, $2, $1.95. And they don't sell for much. I don't think there's any with original stories. They fall apart easily. The glue here, they were not made to basically be read once. This has a crease, and that's, I was talking to him, I says, you read it, right? He's like, yeah, because if you flip this cover all the way open, it's liable just to peel right off the pages. So what you had to do is you kind of had to open it part way. Well, when you did that as you read it, it creased it right in the middle of the cover. And they do bring a little bit of money, but not a ton of collector interest. Since we're on interesting stuff, I'm going to skip to this pile. Bring on the bad guys. Not a rare book. This is the paperback version. I have seen some hardcovers. Some of these were signed because you could order this in the comics. You could even, I suppose some of the other catalog stuff was in there too, and you could get a autographed one from Stan. Not all that rare, but always check these, especially if they're early first, second printings on them. Neat book, and it's, I don't know. I mean, it reprints a lot of stuff, but it was kind of stuff Stan picked and semi-autobiographical, I guess you would call it. So it is an interesting read if you're into the kind of like that history stuff on there. Well, let me go to these. I love treasury editions. Problem is, if I bought one of these, I couldn't get the other books, right? Because if they're like 25-cent comics, well, that's $2. So that's like 8 25-cent comics for one of these. And then they were big, so it's hard to deal with them, and they're usually beat up, and that's no exception. But I always loved them. I always had a soft spot for them. I don't know, Bell's Market paid. I don't know if that's where he bought it from. I'm not, and they stickered it after he paid for it, so they knew he wasn't stealing it. I don't know. I don't know what that's about. That's just a guess. This is a great cover, and you can see it's rough, but I always like the Greatest Foes. You got the Sinister Six thing going on. You got, look at that, and jumbo size art, right? You saw the art not shrunk down, and you could see a lot more detail. And if you get a guy like Romita here, or Ditko, or Neil Adams, I mean, Wally Wood is like, wow, right? And somebody called Craig Warner owned that at one time. That's not who I bought it from, but that's evidently who owned it, at least at one point was. So Craig, your comic survived. Really low grade. Marvel Tales are actually starting to move up a little bit because of the cost of the originals are moving up. So you can get the reprints and read them quite a bit cheaper. But this one's got staples added. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's got four added staples right along the spine. That's, it's going to be reader filler on most of these Marvel Tales anyway. They did have good covers. This is one that I bought as a kid, and that was my first introduction to the Lizard. I'd never seen that character before at that time, and I was going to say, oh, where does it tell me? I can't remember which issue that was originally in, but that's where I read a lot of that stuff, the earlier stuff that I wasn't. Oh, there's another little better copy of it. Type deal, and so this is fun. Again, they're not super valuable. Nobody's really fighting for them other than issues, with certain reprint stories and things like that in there. So like if you don't want to buy the original Punisher or Death of Gwen, you can find them in a reprint form for considerably less, and those are the ones that really sell. And you should recognize this cover. It's a redone cover. Mountain Man Marco, we had the original, and I don't think this is good. They definitely either recolored it or re-inked it. I don't know what the thing is, but that is not as good as the original cover on there. Not even close. And if you don't want to get a trade, you just kind of like that old nostalgia, musty smell. thing going on. Something like these reprint books, really good entry point for beginning collectors, casual collectors, if you just like to read them and have them and don't want to worry about them, you know, getting ruined or sticking a fortune into them. Pretty good option, to be honest with you. I'm really surprised. I guess I'm really surprised that it hasn't taken off earlier, because you can usually find these, especially these higher number ones. You can usually get them in a really high grade on these Marvel Tales. They must have returned, gosh, they must have returned a lot of them back in the day, because they are not hard to find at all as far as the Marvel Tales line goes. And I don't have a ton of these. Which I'm okay with. See, there's a Doc Ock. That's another redone cover from an earlier Spider-Man. So I don't know if they redrew it. I don't know. Somebody else smarter than me and that looked into the Marvel Tales history would know that better than me. I was not that interested. I'd rather buy the real Spider-Man, and that seems to be what everybody kind of prefers yet today. I don't think that's changed a lot. Nice Black Widow silhouette cover on that. All right. And I would say these are all pretty much good, and with maybe a couple of very goods. In fact, that's probably one that's probably a VG right there. So these had the heck read out of them, and that's okay. That's what they're there for. You can see here's another one. Redo. Homage, I don't know what the right term is. There's the kangaroo. You know, they kind of mocked up the original cover, and I'm guessing they just redrew it for the most part. At the very least, they re-inked it, and you can see here Chameleon's yellow instead of the bright white he was on the original book. And here's that Kazar issue, and it's a rough one. That is a well-loved that is a well-loved issue right there. Somebody liked that one. Pretty cool cover there, actually, on the Marvel Tales. Their covers weren't necessarily the greatest, but sometimes, you know, they hit close to the original, I guess is what I would say. Now remember, this is before online, so you couldn't go online where somebody posted it or told you a synopsis or anything. So these were really valuable to somebody like me that was, you know, this is how I found out what happened if I missed those issues. And that is a pretty good Man Wolf. That's got to be, because that was pretty recent reprint, so that's got to be, I would assume, mostly the original comic art with a few changes. Spectacular Spider-Man, I gotta tell you, I've owned lots of these, and I mean lots of them. This was a hot book, gosh, must be 40 years ago, I'm guessing now, pretty close, when I first started, because it had the Daredevil crossover, and I don't know why, it was just a really hot book there for a year or two. I don't think it's quite up there now anymore. But it's not one, it's a line. I've had a lot of nice ones, and I mean like ones that, you know, probably should have been graded, and I just do not have a lot of collector interest in the Spectacular Spider-Man, Web of Spider-Man, and then the 90s Just Spider-Man, the McFarlane ones, where he did the first 18 issues or 20 issues, whatever it was. I can usually sell those with the McFarlane cover, but I just do not have a ton of interest. And that's a pretty nice book there. That's probably one of the nicer books in the collection. That, unfortunately, it's with the Cyclone, but Moon Knight's on the cover. So, you know, there was some crossover stuff. Another Moon Knight book. That was a pretty good cover on that one. And I was a Moon Knight fan of the earlier stuff. I never really got into that Mystic Fistic Khonshu that they're doing now, because I read it when he was in the back of the Hulk magazine, and he was just a paid mercenary. He was kind of like the Punisher with a better costume. Well, that's the way I thought about it, at any rate. So later on, but I like that early Moon Knight stuff, that earlier, before they brought in all the mysticism and things like that. That's still my favorite era of Moon Knight. And there's a pretty good little run of the Peter Parker books. And I think what I'll do, you know, I gotta look them over, get a better grip. I'm guessing these aren't missing anything or have too many loose center folds or anything. Those will probably get bundled. That's about the only way I'm ever able to move some of this Peter Parker line. It's a shame. They're good reads, but I get it because they're not great reads. And they didn't have all the same villains. You know, you got the Beetle instead of the Vulture. You got Carry On instead of, you know, whoever. Another Carry On cover, although I do like that cover. I think that's a pretty decent cover there. You know, got really out of order here. So, you know, I kind of get it. You know, and was it Hammerhead was a big villain, and Tombstone was a big villain in it. And I just don't think they caught on like here we've got the Green Goblin. And then they started, and this is later, this is Sal Buscema on the cover, and it's a good cover. You know, later on they started seeing more crossovers with the main villains, and I do think that helped. Probably in the immediate, you know, sales of the book. It wasn't the B title, you know, as always the B title, but they tried to make it not look like the B title. And there you go, added Avengers and She-Hulk, and it's almost an assistant editor month cover on that one, I would think. But anyway, let's see, Bondage cover, pretty rough shape though. This one's probably only good to very good at the best. Sin Eater. Oh, let me see if I can get it out. It's a black costume book, so they do tend to sell a little bit better, you know, when he's in the black costume stuff, but not like the Amazing line. Funny story, so I go to shows and I go to a lot of flea markets. This usually happens at a flea market is, you know, someone will ask for Spider-Man, and I say it's down in the A's, so look for the box, you know, the A box, which is the first box in the long box row, and for some reason they think I'm joking. Ha ha ha, ho ho ho. No, it's Amazing Spider-Man. So anyway, I don't know why. I just threw that in. It just occurred to me for some reason that does happen fairly frequently when people want a Spider-Man comic and they can't find them because it's not in the S's, it's in the A's. Yeah, I'm sorry, Razorback was not going to, you know, heroes tend to only be as good as the villains, right? And Razorback, Power Brother, Sister's Son, you know, they tried to come up with some new characters, new villains, and I'm surprised this title ran at all, to be flat out honest with you, because I don't know, even growing up and, you know, before all the internet and the grading and the money got involved, I honestly don't know anybody that collected these. I honestly don't. And I don't know. You know, there's got to be a market out there, but I would say it's not here in Iowa for the most part for Peter Parker. Again, if there's a collection, or you see somebody at a show or flea market, you see a lot of the Peter Parkers. I'm a Morbius fan, I get it. I'm probably the only one on the planet. I always like that cover. It's one of the few I actually bought because he was on there. I really liked it. So otherwise though, I did not go out and spend my 30 cents on Peter Parker books. I can tell you that. That was just not going to happen. It was probably a war book. I bought a lot of the DC war books at that time. And there's a fairly high grade of the same cover there. That's probably not VF. It's got a lot of spine ticks on it. So again, I wouldn't grade it. Human Torch, Morbius, I just like those covers. And I do agree that these earlier Spectacular Spider-Mans are much better as far as their cover art goes. The first year, half a year maybe, they did seem to put a little more effort into the book, you know, when they're trying to kick it off. Let me get this, since we're doing the countdown. Christmas cover, don't get a ton of those. I mean, it's not, but it is. Winter cover kind of deal. You don't get a lot of them. Some people do collect them, but they usually have to have like a weird Santa Claus or something on there. Here's another book. I swear it's in every collection. It's just a book that shows up. Here, well, let me get this right. I have this have this wrong, so I'm going to do the number 2 first. Another Craven cover. Again, this one isn't super high grade. It's probably around a fine on that is all. I've got the tarantula in it. Here's the number 1. Not a rare book. Not a rare number 1. I have literally, truthfully, over the years had at least a long box of just Peter Parker number 1s. And I have to tell you, we're in a real small market. So I couldn't even imagine, like, if you're on the East Coast, West Coast, a large metropolitan area, how many of these issues were unsold. It's moved up a little bit, so, you know, I'm not going to totally sit here and trash it, because it is an affordable Bronze Age Spider-Man number 1. But honestly, I would put your money into one of those older Silver Age books that you saw earlier in the video than I would this one. These are super common. Just super duper duper common. So that's it. That's the Spidey collection. I hope you liked it. I haven't had a collection like this in for a few years where it's just all one title. So that's been really, really super cool on that. Again, thank you, Tim, for bringing it in, and thank you guys for watching. We'll catch you later.